The time is now 7 o'clock.
Korea, the country, is in a bit of kind of 한강 mania right now, propelled by her Nobel Prize win. Many are waiting for their bookstore orders to read the Nobel laureates' works, with the book industry seeing its biggest sales in years. South Korea has a Nobel Prize in Literature, and now, yes, peace previously. So will we see this honor bestowed upon the sciences within our lifetime? It's a big question. It took 24 years between the first and the second Nobel Prize to be awarded to somebody from South Korea. And the question is, will the country be able to lessen that gap for a possible prize number 3 in the near foreseeable future? I'm Catherine. This is Morning Wave in Busan on Tuesday, October 15th on befm 부산영어방송. Good morning, Wavers. I hope you're all doing well, and thank you for joining us on this beautiful Tuesday morning. It's looking a little dark out there, so of course we'll get you your update regarding weather and traffic, and I know that it is raining right now, so I'll probably mention it later on. Please be careful out there and maybe wake up a little early if you want to avoid some of the traffic congestion that is going to ensue because, once it rains in Busan, you know what happens, right? Let's get to our main story. This so-called 한강 fever continues as sales for her books are skyrocketing. So Wavers, have you been successful in getting your hands on any copy of her works? The book industry is hoping for a renaissance in reading. And actually, Korean literature is definitely having its moment in the spotlight right now. And like 한강, many of the most prominent authors on the literary scene right now are female. According to the Literature Translation Institute of Korea, there have been 31 wins by Korean authors in international literary prizes in the last 8 years. So these 8 years are bookmarked by when Han won the Man Booker Prize in 2016. And then, of course, just a few days ago, we heard about the Nobel Prize. About 2/3 of these 31 global literary prize wins were by female authors. At the same time, global literature is shifting from the old institution of white, Western men to the language and experience of women of color. So actually on the same day that the Swedish Academy announced 한강's win, another Korean author, Kim Ju-hae, actually won the prestigious Yasnaya Polyana Literary Award, also known as the Tolstoy Literary Award for her debut novel, Beasts of a Little Land. So amazing feat there as well. I just feel like, we're having a moment right now. It's so amazing. So, obviously there is no lack of incredible authors, in the Korean literary scene. And, I have to say, prize, no prize. Of course, we talk about the prizes, but the fact that there are authors out there, they're getting their flowers now, as we say, I think it's definitely something to celebrate. All writing, all books, perfect season. All right, here we go. Text topic. Later on in the program, we're going to talk about fast fashion and waste. That's coming up in our special interview. So how about talking about throwing things away? Do you tend to throw things away that you don't need, like quickly, or are you a hoarder? Meaning, do you tend to hold on to these items? What are you particularly, I don't know, how should I phrase it, bad or good? But what do you hold on to? What do you tend to hold on to? 자, 나는 물건을 잘 버린다, 못 버린다. This is the verses today. 내가 잘 못 버린 물건은, what is it? Oh, okay. So send in your messages through BFM's live stream, live chat on YouTube. Go to the YouTube channel, search for BEFM or 부산영어방송, and you'll see us right now. We are live streaming, like I said, but you need to subscribe and to log in, and then you can chat away with our waivers. Also, on your phone, pound 9050, shop 9050. That's going to cost you 101. You can also reach me for free through our Kakao Talk channel. The good thing about that, same thing, you search for BEFM, 부산영어방송, to find our channel. And you can send in your messages or even photos if you like. That's a great way to communicate with me as well. The ways you can listen to us on the radio, 90.5, 103.3 FM on the radio dial. That's if you're in the Busan area. Also, though, like I said, we're live streaming right now on YouTube. You can watch us later on that platform later on. We also have the BEFM app, plus we have the Patbang app as well. We're available on that. Looking ahead to our morning together, what do we have? It is Tuesday, so we have Andrew coming in for Sports Insider. We have Bonnie with the health. Like I said, for a special interview, have you thought about this? Where does all those clothes, that shirt that you probably wore for one season and you bought it really, really cheap and you kind of discard it, where does that go? Think about all that waste from fast fashion. We're going to talk about that in hour number 2 with our expert, and I'll be back with today's headlines. All right, it's now 7:06 and it's time for today's headlines. North Korea seems to be preparing to blast roads connected to South Korea. The South Korean Joint Chiefs of Staff, or JCS, said that the North's military has been carrying out activities assumed to be linked to explosions on the roads along the Gyeonggi and Donghae lines. PPP leader urges presidential office reshuffle. People Power Party, or PPP leader Han Dong-hoon, yesterday stepped the calls for a personnel overhaul of the presidential office to address controversies of influence peddling allegations involving the First Lady. Constitutional Court suspends quorum requirement and avoids shutdown. The Constitutional Court is expected to avoid a paralysis in its operations as it has temporarily suspended a clause that requires the attendance of at least 7 out of 9 justices to try a case. UN condemns casualties in Gaza as Israel expands attacks to northern Lebanon. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres condemned the large number of civilian casualties in northern Gaza as Israel has expanded its attacks to northern Lebanon, with 21 people killed in the Christian majority region. Nobel Economics Prize goes to globally inequality researchers. 3 U.S.-based researchers, Darren Akimoglu, Simon Johnson, and James A. Robinson, won the Nobel Prize in Economics for studies of how institutions affect prosperity. And these are today's headlines. Let's say good morning to Haley. Good morning.
Good morning. I mean, is it morning? Is it still night?
I don't know.
We'll
It's
never
awfully
know.
dark.
It's so dark.
Today. Yes. However, today we're talking about throwing things away. Are you good at this? I hear a sigh.
What do you think? No, I truly am not.
Oh, you hold on to things.
I hold on. Well, it's not that I want to hold on to them. I just don't toss them.
What in particular?
Laziness. Clothes. I have clothes of all sizes. I mean, if you need clothes, come to my place because I have them of like all sizes, all of them from when I was tiny back then to not so, and then everything in the middle. I don't know because I'm of the group like, what if I need it?
Like just in case.
Just in case.
You just never know.
What if I need a costume?
What if it comes back in fashion?
You know what came back?
Yes.
Hair scrunchies.
And
you know what I had like multiples of and then I got rid of? Hair scrunchies.
I did too.
Yeah.
곱창.
Yeah, 곱창 밴드. Yeah. So I'm waiting until I don't know. I will never wear skinny jeans because I like the feel of feeling my legs, but like what if what if platform sandals come back or what if whatever comes back.
Fashion goes round and round. So I agree.
So yeah, here I come, peplum.
Yeah. All right, let's get to our first update. We have the decline of the younger population in Busan City. That is changing the makeup of the schools here, right?
Right. So the population of school-age children, especially in elementary schools, that has been on the decline. And because of this, elementary schools are getting smaller and smaller. Because, back in the day, when you and I were in elementary school, just like a couple decades ago, I think I had 30, almost 40 kids to a classroom, right? Yeah.
It might be like a
different
cultural
countries.
thing. Yeah,
Right.
Because in the States, it never went beyond.
Oh, that's
30 was
true.
like the max.
That's true. So
right.
I went I think it was 30 in something in the 30s, but definitely that's not the case. So the thing is, some classes, they meet the criteria for mergers and shutdowns if we're just judging that by population alone. So there are 85 schools in Busan that apparently fall under the Education Ministry school size recommendation.
Yes.
So in a city like ours, an independently standing school should have over 240 students across all 6 grade levels.
Okay.
But the number of such schools has been on a rapid increase in Busan, more than doubling in the span of 10 years. So there are actually 17 schools where the entire school or the student population is just under 60. Meaning, because it's elementary schools, there are 10 or fewer students per each grade level.
That's actually a big, big change. I know we've been talking about the population shrinking, but that's kind of like a real snapshot into what's happening.
Right.
So why is there a lower limit to a student population in schools?
I mean, conventionally, of course, there are upsides. If there are fewer students in a classroom per teacher, you do get more one-on-one time and care. But there can be issues if you're trying to do group work. If there are only 5 students, they're the single group. They're stuck with each other forever. And of course, yes, if you're just looking at the homeroom teacher, there is a fewer student population density. But other teachers, like subject teachers, get assigned based on the school's population.
Okay.
So then they get fewer teachers overall for that school because they see no need for it. So there's actually one school, Kasan Elementary School, that's currently going through a process of a merger and then a shutdown because it had 0 first graders this year. None. So this school will be closed down next year.
Yes. So that's what's going on for our schools here in Busan. Next, the city has built several facilities and spaces for the youth. But it seems that they are not doing the job that they're supposed to. And I'm talking about the spaces.
Right. So we're kind of going a little bit up the age ladder. So we're talking about people in their 20s, 30s. There are several of these youth designated spaces throughout the city. Their intent is to serve as kind of cultural hubs and support spaces for young people.
Yes.
But number one, they haven't gotten the foot traffic they expected to get. And unfortunately, some are turning into kind of money pits.
Yes.
So one example is the 와글와글 platform in Bujeon-dong. It opened up 4 years ago. The intent was to help isolated young people gain independence.
Right.
And then it was later expanded to a youth community. But it doesn't have a staff on site to run the facilities because of money reasons. So it's actually closed during the daytime. So not really doing the job it's supposed to.
Yes.
And then the Sasang Indie Station, it's by the Sasang bus terminal. I mean, I drive past that area all the time for the past decade. We've all kind of wondered, so what does it do? Because it has stood there for the past 10 years, but it really has run pretty much empty for that time. It was built with a 2 billion won budget. It was supposed to be used as a venue for various events, but for this year, it was only rented out 10 times. And rarely anyone really visits there. There's also that Beacon ground in Mangmi with a 9 billion won price tag it took to build. It has lost over 2.8 billion won in the last 5 years. And there are apparently 27 similar facilities in Busan. And experts say that these spaces, they need to find a new way to be used.
I see. So we don't want space to be wasted, especially when they're supposed to serve a particular purpose.
Yeah.
Well, now we're going to go to the opposite end of that age spectrum that you were referring to for our next story, specifically free meals for seniors.
Right. So one facility that we don't see a lack of is 경로당, the senior center, senior community centers. And local governments do provide subsidies, money for these centers to be able to provide meals to their members. Because senior poverty, and we discussed this a couple weeks ago, senior malnourishment is apparently a serious issue in the country. So these are important programs. But according to the Health and Welfare Ministry data, about 87% of all senior centers nationwide provide these meals, but to varying frequencies.
I see.
So about 35% provided meals every day of at least a weekday, 5 times a week. And the national average was about 3.5 days. But then bringing this to Busan, our figures actually fell below the national average at 3.1 days per week. So the government is working to expand these programs so that senior centers would be able to provide meals 5 days a week. Because these are important sources of nutrition.
Absolutely. Well, I hope that we're able to address that issue. Lastly, there is this urban farming event coming up this weekend, right?
Right. So the Busan Urban Farming Festival is this Friday and Saturday, and the event will showcase various forms of urban farming, your urban vegetable gardens, and whatnot.
Yes.
And there will be awards for best farms, but also information and experiences for aspiring amateur urban farmers. And there will be booths giving out produce and various plants and seeds with farming material, and importantly, lessons on how you can start your own vegetable garden, because it's hard.
It's
so remember when
difficult.
Casey brought you cilantro seeds?
Yes.
And I asked him, I was like, can you bring me basil? Like, can you tell me how to grow basil?
Right.
And he's like, how often do you water them? I'm like, every day. And he's like, you're supposed to water them once a week. And I was like, good to know. So important nuggets of information like this on how not to drown your plants, perhaps.
Exactly.
It's free. It's open to anyone and everyone. The events will take place around that artificial waterfall along Oncheoncheon. So it's by Dongdae Station Exit 2. Once again, Friday and Saturday.
Indeed. Well, thank you so much for all the updates, Haley.
Thank you.
Back to you, the listeners. We're talking about throwing things away. Are you good at throwing things away? Do you tend to hold on to things? Do you hoard stuff? 자, 나는 물건을 잘 버린다, 못 버린다. 근데 그 못 버리는 것 중에서 뭘 특히 꼭 이건 못 버리겠어요 하는 게 분명히 있을 거예요. 그렇죠? So what is it? Whether it's clothing or shoes or kitchen stuff, I think that's also a common one too, all the little gadgets. Well, let me know. And here is your traffic and weather. It is now 7:18. Here's your traffic report. It is looking slow on the Dongso overpass from Bumnekor ramp to the old Kaegum tollgate. Also, it's looking backed up on Byeonglo from the Wondong ramp to Suyang tunnel. And there's congestion on Nakdong-Namno from Myeongji ramp to the Cheongyangsa-Ogui intersection. It is currently 20 degrees Celsius. It's raining right now, and it is expected to continue through the afternoon. You can expect a daytime high of 26. Well, nationwide, rains are coming, so don't forget to grab an umbrella on your way out. This was your traffic and weather.
Are you an early bird? Are you up to date on the news? Are you a trendsetter? For all of the biggest issues from Busan to the world and useful information you need, right here on Morning Wave in Busan.
It is now time for News Digest. Since, of course, Haley's with us, and we're going to talk about what's happening with the two Koreas, because North Korea is amping up its rhetoric against the South over the whole drone incident, which has become the source of latest tensions between the two Koreas.
Right. So did South Korea, or at least its military, fly the drones over Pyongyang? Did it not? Well, Kim Yo-jung, sister of Kim Jong-un, yesterday accused the South Korean military of sending the unmanned drones carrying the anti-Pyongyang leaflets over the capital city in recent days.
Right.
And she also blamed the U.S. for the incident. So it was a very strongly worded statement. And Kim said that they clearly know that the main culprit was South Korea, which the South Korean military, which she called, quote, trash.
Yes.
And then the colorful metaphors continued, because she referred to South Korea as mutts that were trained by the U.S. And if, quote, the dogs infringe upon the autonomy of North Korea, then the owners that raised the dogs should apologize.
Okay.
Right. So this is in response to the South Korean Defense Ministry the previous day saying that North Korea hasn't even been able to confirm who exactly was behind the propaganda leaflets, because the position is it could have been the military, but it also could have been civilian groups.
Oh, goodness. So the North claims that these anti-Pyongyang leaflets dropped from a drone was over, North Korean airspace. That is the claim. And now we know apparently what the leaflets contained.
Right, and why they were so sensitive about
Yes.
it. Actually, the North Korean Foreign Ministry released the photos of the leaflets in a statement to their people. The flyer says Kim Jong-un busy at filling his own stomach, although the contents have been blurred out in the media release statements that were released to the public, but the South Korean intelligence officers were able to decipher that out. Also, the photos feature Kim Jong-un and his daughter Kim Ju-e from, it seems to be the inspection of the test launch of the intercontinental ballistic missile from earlier, but in the photo it's what they were wearing that's of concern, because Kim Jong-un is seen wearing a Swiss luxury brand watch, which back then when the photos were first released, it was assessed to be about 15 million won. Kim Ju-e is wearing a winter coat by the designer brand Christian Dior. At that point, it was assessed to be 2.4 million won, which is, expensive anywhere, but especially in North Korea.
Yes,
Because in that country, that can buy how many months worth of grain. And about that, the flyer also gives information on the income difference between South and North Korean residents, along with information on the economic conditions on the North.
Right. So I can see why maybe the North is very sensitive about the content of those leaflets. Anyhow, let's move on for now. The number of women in the workforce has reached an all-new high in South Korea.
It has. So the number of female waged workers, the people working on salaries in South Korea, has exceeded 10 million for
really?
the first time ever. So this is according to Statistics Korea yesterday, which said that the number of waged female workers came to specifically 10,152,000, and that is the highest since record-taking began back in 1963. So this is, if you're counting, almost 18 times the figure from 6 decades ago.
Sure.
So also, if you look at the entire workforce, 46% of the workforce is female.
Okay.
And that's also the highest ratio yet. And so this shows how economically active that women have gotten in the past 6 decades. And also on top of that, the number of female business owners has reached an all-new high.
Yes.
So experts say that with aging of the population overall, and because of that, especially small and mid-sized businesses are having difficulty finding qualified workers. So actively making use of the female workforce would be beneficial for the labor market.
Indeed. And, even as female workers have grown exponentially in the workforce, what about the wages? So the wages seemingly not so much.
The worst out of the OECD nations. It's important to note that the gender wage gap in South Korea is the highest out of all OECD countries
Yes.
at 31% difference. And of course, in some cases, it could mean that for the exact same job that a male employee and a female employee does, the female employee could be getting paid less. That does happen. But it also speaks to the quality of jobs available for and to female workers.
True.
And of course, there's that the career severance phenomenon of younger women seeking family life and then having to come back.
That gap.
Yes. So, by the way, that gap of 31% is 2.7 times the OECD average of 11.4%.
I hate to be like the highest on that list.
Right.
Really?
It's not the list that you want to top.
Yes.
Right.
All right. Next up, whenever we talk about real estate prices, 부동산, we often wonder, how do people afford to buy these homes? And apparently, you have some answers to these questions.
Yeah, whenever you see home prices or whenever I look them up, I'm like, that's a nice apartment. I look it up and I'm like, 어떻게 사?
Like how? How much do you have to earn to be able to afford that?
And how do you get the money? Well, it's kind of a rhetorical question,
Yes.
but I have answers.
Okay.
Depending on what age group you are. So this is based on the Land Infrastructure and Transport Ministry survey
Sure.
from home buyers. That's from the first 8 months of this year and how they got their financing. So first, how do we know this? Well, when you purchase a home, especially if your home is in the higher range at worth over 600 million won, 6억 won. So that's pretty much everywhere in Seoul and most places in Busan. Or if you live in a real estate speculation neighborhood, that would be Seoul's Gangnam, Seocho, Songpa, and Yongsan. You have to fill out a financing plan. You have to submit that to the government. That's called a 자금 조달 계획서. And those are mandatory for the homes that I just mentioned.
I see.
So it seems that the majority of the home buyers for this year in these higher price homes were previous homeowners. So they kind of stepped up.
I see.
So 65%, especially of people in their 40s or older, said on their financing plans that they plan on selling their existing home or other real estate property to come up with the money.
Okay, so you said that the majority of those in the 40s or older, that's what this applies to. But what about those 30s or younger?
Yeah, so if you're like roughly around my age, once again, how are you buying these homes?
I don't know.
So by comparison, younger people have a lower ratio when it comes to home ownership. Makes sense. However, those that did, they tended to see real estate as kind of the final step in their investment plan.
I see.
So their source of funding was funds, bonds, and stocks. So they're financial investments. So the younger people, the younger generation, they tend to be more aggressive or proactive in stock investments. And those who made money from these investments, then they funnel that money into real estate, into home buying. There were even minors, underaged people who bought homes, presumably from their parents, grandparents' generational wealth.
Yes.
In the last 5 years, minors collectively bought 3,000 homes across the country, spending also collectively 517 billion won total. The bulk of that, 60%, was in the capital area. One particular rich child owned 22 homes in the capital area. 22 homes. There's also a child legitimately under the age of 9 who owns 21 homes in just Gyeongnam alone. Yeah.
I need to be adopted to that family. But spread the wealth.
Yeah.
Of course. But this is just, to look at how people are financing. Very interesting.
Very interesting.
Because
indeed.
home, so important, right? Well, let's move on to some international news. China has begun its war games around the seas and airs of Taiwan.
Right. So China has sent a clear message to the self-ruled democratic island of Taiwan as Taiwan marked its National Day. So China started a new round of its military exercises that comes for the first time in 5 months. It's called Joint Sword 2024B, and it's basically everywhere, but in the areas north, south, and east of Taiwan Island. And that's according to the Beijing's military spokesperson. So the military called the drills a legitimate and necessary operation for safeguarding state sovereignty and national unity. And Taiwan said it detected 34 naval vessels and 125 aircrafts in formation around the island.
Yes.
And also maps published by the Chinese state media indicated that its forces were positioned around basically the whole island, and later said Monday local time that the drills had been successfully concluded.
And as you said, though, many pundits see this as a very pointed message toward Taiwan around its National Day.
Right. So in the past few years, China has really stepped up its military activities around Taiwan. And of course, China claims Taiwan as its own. And the latest drills, the timing is very important because the island, just days before, they celebrated their National Day with the president saying he would resist any annexation or encroachment. And Beijing has no right to represent the island.
Oh.
Actually, the relationship between the Taiwanese president and Beijing has been very, very tense. Beijing has previously said that it has not ruled out using force on the island, and they call the president a separatist, and they condemn his position.
I see. Oh, tension there as well. Tension. We began with tension and we're ending with tension. We will check in with you in hour number 2, though. Thank you for all the news.
See you in a bit.
Everybody, this was Haley. And now it is time for our first song of this wet Tuesday morning. We have a song request from Taejin Waver, 열 맞춰 by HOT.
그렇죠 몽땅 쓸어버리겠죠 한심한 꼬라지들 고재불로 안다고 자기들같이 잘난 사람 대라고 어쩌고 저쩌고 지지고 짜주고 짜들어다니 껍데기다 넌 그게 싫어 하나도 보고 배울 것이 없는 애들 재미없어 없어 밤 모두 뜨끈뜨끈 깨져간 깍지들 버티냐 바람처럼 부지 없는 거 왜 다들 그렇게 참지도 못할 걸 쫓고 있나 거품처럼 사그라진 것들 욕심을 버리고 하늘을 봐 그대를 노려보는 눈이 느껴지는가 넌 가끔 나에게 왜 그리 밑바닥을 그냥 사느냐고 저질이라고 때로 불쌍하다고 그런 눈으로 우리가 자꾸 기준법은 누가 만들었을까 절망과 한숨밖에 내 가슴 속에 남는 건 없었지 오직 이 땅에 내가 살아난 바다를 날 찾고 싶었어 왔던과 욕심 많은 것들 바꿔야 해 자기 것만 알고 나머지 빨고 바닷가 1등 아니면 다 안된다는 생각 2등부터 고개 들지도 마 이제 모든 훈련 벗어나고 싶어 손바꿔 무조건 억제하고 다그치고 나고 하면 버림받고 모든 기성들을 잘라버려 모두가 뚫고 왔던 세상 어느 누구도 지배하게 둘 수 없어 인간의 죄는 기준과 잔들을 모두 없어져 버려 숲에 바람처럼 부지 없는 거왜 다들 그렇게 찾지도 못할 걸 쫓고 있나 거품처럼 사그라질 것들 욕심을 버리고 하늘을 봐 그대를 노려보는 눈이 느껴지는가
Welcome back. I wonder what Taejin Waver was thinking, like as he was saying, oh, I like the lyrics of this song and the kind of mood he's in today. But anyhow, our top story today, we're talking about the Nobel Prize, and for now specifically, whether South Korea will be able to make headway in science and scientific achievements enough to ever warrant this honor. So here's what's notable about this year's Nobel Science Prize fields, the field, the prizes in the science fields, the prevalence of AI. So this is seen as a symbolic of the changing paradigm in the field of science and has potential meaning for the future of South Korea's science. Korea's sciences have been concentrated in applied science with limited funding in basic or fundamental sciences, and Korea is seen as behind in these fields. So the sudden emergence of AI, of artificial intelligence, means that the field may be changing, favoring applied sciences and possibly, maybe, opening new doors. So, of course, this also doesn't happen overnight and would require funding and support from the AI research sector. So ultimately, it boils down to the support, both financial and administrative, for the sciences. But, I have to say, it's not just for winning the Nobel Prize. It's for the development of the country as a whole. So that's what we're talking about. And now it's time for a text topic. So here we go. Yes. We have been talking about throwing things away. Are you good at throwing things away? What do you throw out? What do you keep? 자, 나는 물건을 잘 버린다 versus 못 버린다. Which camp do you fall into? 내가 잘 못 버리는 물건은... Can I go first? May I go first? I cannot throw away handwritten notes and letters. I have a special box where I keep all of the letters and notes from my loved ones, the people I really care deeply about. They're all in a special box. Yes, some of them are really old, some of them are yellowing, but it's okay. I feel that I just could never throw away, those kinds of notes. And they could be letters of apology, birthday cards, all of that. Huge box. The collection is growing. And I know everybody sends things electronically these days, but I just love the written word. I do. So that's me. I see a lot of messages regarding clothes. People seem to be throwing clothes out. Junwon says, English book, thinking I'll study it someday, meaning he doesn't throw away his English books. I'll read more of your messages, but here is Kat's pick for today. For today's pick, Kat's pick, I want to focus on what's happening regarding the election in the United States. It's coming up real soon, right? November 5th. Well, it seems like there's like a dead heat, according to one poll. So here is the news from NBC News.
Coast-to-coast campaigning counting down this morning to Election Day. Our new NBC News poll shows the race in a dead heat. Vice President Harris and former President Trump now tied among registered voters nationwide, with Mr. Trump erasing the vice president's 5-point lead from last month. Also among the findings, a big gender gap, with Mr. Trump leading with men by 16 points and Vice President Harris up among women by 14 points. It all comes as on the campaign trail, the former president deploying increasingly inflammatory rhetoric against his rival.
Kamala Harris, her reign of terror ends the day I take office. She's finished.
and suggesting using the military against what he described as domestic enemies.
I think the bigger problem is the enemy from within. We have some sick people, radical left lunatics, and I think they're the big, and it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military.
How are you going to guard against the bureaucrats undermining you?
Well, they're going to undermine. Well, I always say, so we have two enemies. We have the outside enemy, and then we have the enemy from within.
Vice President Harris in battleground North Carolina trying to put the spotlight on Mr. Trump's health.
And he's not being transparent with the voters.
Pointing to Mr. Trump's refusal to reveal his medical records after she released a letter from her White House doctor who said she's in excellent health.
One must question, are they afraid that people will see that he is too weak and unstable to lead America?
Both candidates on the campaign trail all weekend. And on Saturday, a man was arrested outside a Trump rally in Coachella, California, with what local officials said were weapons and fake credentials. The man arrested, Vem Miller from Las Vegas, has since been released, telling a California newspaper he's a Trump supporter and that the accusations are complete BS. A federal law enforcement source telling NBC News there's no indication right now it was another assassination attempt against the former president, with the Secret Service saying he was not in any danger.
So in this particular poll, they're basically neck and neck. In other polls, I just looked at a CBS poll as well. Kamala Harris has nationally maybe a 1 point or 2 point lead. But in a very state to state, the swing states, that's where it's going to really matter. So we're going to keep a close eye on the election, especially on those swing states. And of course, we're going to cover this as we, go down that path towards the election coming up real soon. This was Kat's Pick for today.
Stay tuned. You're listening to Morning Wave in Busan.
It is time for Sports Insider.
Sports.
I know, and then your back is okay, right? Because Andrew, TMI, 7:41 in the morning, was lying down on, a few of our chairs.
There's a bench
chairs.
outside the studio here.
Yes.
And I was just my back was a bit sore, so I just laid down because it's actually quite flat.
Yes.
And then I could, it's not really cushiony or anything like that. So then
we
when
were
Haley
worried.
came out, Haley's like, oh my goodness. And I said, my back was sore. But then when I came into the studio.
That's not what she said. She said, there's a homeless guy out here.
Well, I wasn't going to say that.
Yes.
And
you're
so
literally on the bench.
You guys thought that I was really injured, but I was not. It was okay.
So you're okay. That's good news.
Well, I mean, okay is a strong phrase. And,
yes.
I guess I'm doing all right.
So before we dive into news with sports, so we have a little photo that we're going to post via William because Lily.
Hey, look at that.
Lily is our official mascot. Lily's been with us longer than some of our listeners, actually, our waivers. She's an official waiver, and you can see she is checking us out on William's laptop, all the way from San Francisco. And he's giving me updates oh, it's the Mets. The Mets are beating the Dodgers. Your Dodgers, Cat. He's giving me a play-by-play.
Yes.
So, yeah, you see the two screens simultaneously on. I love it, William. Thank you. So we have listeners from all over, as you can see. But Lily,
fantastic. I love
paying
it.
attention.
It's great.
She knows my voice. I like to think.
Yeah, it just starts howling. Oh.
No, she's smiling. Yeah. The inner smile. All right. What do you have for us today?
All right. So lately we've been covering a lot of negativities regarding the men's national football team.
Yes.
So it's nice to get back to some positives.
Yes.
So North Korea, shut down Jordan 2-0 last Thursday in Jordan. And I guess I would say a lot of us anticipated this.
Yes.
But there's a lot of things that we've anticipated lately with the team and haven't really, or assumed, and you know what that means when it's the
Don't make
there you
assumptions.
Go. Yeah, exactly. So despite missing Son Heung-min, who is out with a hamstring injury, during that match, though, South Korea lost 2 more players, which isn't good for tonight's game. So Hwang Hee-chan suffering an ankle injury, and Ji-sung also, Hwang's replacement, going down with a knee injury. So we're not really, I mean, for the Korean team, this is better because it's the international break's almost over. So, okay, they have a chip, but their club teams probably aren't too happy about this stuff.
Not thrilled.
Yeah, so moving on to the game tonight.
Yes.
South Korea and Iraq will clash at the Youngmin Stadium in Yongin, just south of Seoul at 8 p.m. tonight for the 4th Group B match in the 3rd round of the Asian World Cup qualification. So, yeah, sorry.
That's a mouthful.
Exactly. The 4th in the 3rd round. Anyway, so the move to the Yongin ground doesn't really surprise anybody who's been following along what's been happening.
Yes.
Since the last match that was played at the Seoul World Cup Stadium was heavily scrutinized.
Oh, yeah.
Not just because of Chanson Hong Myung-bo, but it was because of the poor pitch conditions.
Indeed.
And some people blame that for what went on in the game, but I think that was also just a poor performance. So the FA isn't leaving anything to chance this time around, opting for a pitch that can essentially play to their strengths.
Indeed, indeed. So you did mention that criticism, right?
Yes.
Against Hong Myung-bo and his appointment maybe could be put to rest with 2 top performances. So 1 down, 1 to go.
Yeah, I wish it was that easy, but I do agree with you on that sense because I feel that not just in this country, but in every sporting nation, recency bias is huge.
Of course.
In a sense, if something's wrong, we're going to hear a lot about it. And if something's good, that's what people are going to focus on.
Sure.
So the game in Jordan was regarded, as many as the team's best performance so far this time around, in this round. As expected, the team held most of the ball, around 75%. But I think there's definitely room for improvement. And now looking at their opposition tonight in Yongin, Iraq, it was a narrow 1-0 victory over Palestine the last time out. And they are currently tied with Korea with 7 points at the top of the table. But Korea narrowly edges them into the first place position on goal difference.
And that makes all the difference at the end.
Yeah, so I think whoever wins this game, it's going to possibly change everything that happens moving forward.
Yes.
But again, the top 2 teams do make it out of the group, so we'll see how that works out.
All right.
Yes.
So hopefully they can get the job done without their bigger or biggest stars, actually.
I mean, they couldn't do that here without us, though, right?
No, of course not.
Without us? The big stars? Come on.
Nothing.
Haley, stay out there.
What's her next story? Throwing her under the bus.
Yeah, definitely. I have a question for you.
Yes.
All right. So, and for our listeners too, and maybe Lily. All right.
Lily, yes.
If you trained,
yes,
how fast do you think you could complete a marathon?
I don't know. I've never come close to finishing a marathon. I did, share with our waivers a few days ago.
All right.
Speed walking. I've worked up to that.
Yeah, okay.
Running a marathon, not there yet.
All right, so for non-elite runners, under 4 hours is considered like a quite incredible achievement.
Just finishing it alive is good, I think.
Exactly.
Crawling
because
over that line.
Most people who say, I'm going to do a marathon, they don't usually
It's really difficult.
Or you should start out at a 5K, do a 10K, then maybe move up to a half and then a full kind of thing, right?
Yes.
Well, let's get to a clip, and this is quite astonishing.
Here is going to be our champion, Ruth Chepengedich. What a beautiful run to have watched. This race for her, it's like she's like, I had a plan, and this is it.
While she is a mom, she forgoed being a cop. She is now going to break the tape of the 2024 Bank of America Chicago Marathon in a time of 2. Can I see it? Are we going to see it? Are we going to see it? 2:09 something. Let's get her here, everybody. We have seen it.
Yeah, just right at the end there. Those ladies were excited. So that was Kenya's Ruth Chepengedich obliterated the women's marathon world record in Chicago on Sunday as she completed the course in 2 hours, 9 minutes, 56 seconds.
2 hours?
Becoming the first ever woman to break the 2:10 barrier.
Okay.
Now, Jimmy has shaved almost, and this is where I think it's pretty amazing that she broke 2 minutes and 10 seconds. But I always look at, when it comes to sports like this, sometimes a tenth of a second or 1 second is huge. She shaved almost 2 minutes off the previous world record.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so the previous world record was 2 minutes, 11 seconds, 53 seconds, set by an Ethiopian back in 2023. So, I mean, do I think it's going to be beat anytime soon? I don't know. But, she went on to say, I fought a lot thinking about this world record. The world record has come back to Kenya, and I dedicated the world record to Calvin Kittipin, who she said is referencing a fellow Kenyan who set the men's world record in Chicago last year, but then unfortunately died in a road accident at age 24 back in February. So she had that in the back of her mind as well, pushing forward. So quite amazing.
Congratulations to her. All right, I hear you have some golf news for us.
Some golf news, yes. So Shanghai native Runing Yin earned her 4th career victory, dominating fashion at the Quizhong Garden Golf Club, shattering a 72-hole record scoring that was set back in 2019 by Danielle Kang.
Yes.
Now, playing in front of her hometown, Yin teed off in the final group of the day, trailing 1 stroke to the 2024 LPGA Tour rookie Mouse Hego. Now, she would be the first to strike, and this was pretty amazing. I watched the end of this here, and it was kind of back and forth, but it was some final rounds you watch, you're like, okay, that person's got it, no problem.
Yes.
This was not like that. It was really
nice.
entertaining to watch. Now, Republic of Korea native Jiwon Jun actually made her second hole-in-one of the 2024 LPGA Tour season.
Nice.
At the Buick LPGA Open in Shanghai. But it was really funny because she said, I thought it was a good shot and a good 5-iron, a little drawing. It hits the green, and I was like, oh, it was a good shot. That was her, it's a good shot. So you're thinking, well, it's a bit cocky, you know what I mean?
You're like,
but
it's pretty good.
She said, I didn't see it land and then roll, so I didn't really know where it finished. When I got there, another player came up and was like, you made a hole-in-one, and we were just celebrating afterwards. So it was pretty amazing. Now, Yin will be looking to continue her winning ways right here in South Korea.
Okay.
This weekend, the LPGA's only stop of the season is here in Paju, where Aussie Minji Lee looks to defend her title at the same course where she won last year at the Solwon Hills Club in Paju.
Very nice. Very exciting.
Yes.
So, are you going to be going?
I am. I am
you
going.
are.
Yeah.
Yay. Exciting.
It's a nice little trip.
Well, thank you for covering all the sports. And of course, I hope you're sore back, that you feel better. And we'll check in with you next week. Thank you.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Everybody, this was Andrew. And so let's take a look at some of your messages too. Aside from the fact that Dodgers are losing to the Mets. Yeah, that's news. Sports news. We should have squeezed that one in. People about what you have been kind of reluctant to throw out. Oh, I forgot to ask Andrew. Real quick.
Jobs.
Andrew, what do you not throw out?
Not throw out?
Like clothing, books.
Kids things. Like things that my kids have made. Like artwork and things like that.
It's difficult, is it not?
It is difficult, especially if they're around when you maybe think about throwing it away. And it's like, it's heartbreaking.
It is.
So I always take pictures of stuff and then try to save it like, try to save it like that. But that's it. Other than that, I used to be kind of a hoarder. Not really, but these days I don't really care. And just recycle things.
All right. Well, thank you, Andrew, for your thoughts on that. Here is our final song for hour number 1. This is Benny's song request, 같은 베개 by Tae.
밤 자고 나면 괜찮을 거라 그 밤이 어느새 1000번째 밤이야 네가 떠난 그날부터 매일 밤 나를 위로해 줬던 건 언젠가 네가 내게 사준 베개야 한시도 떨어져 살 수가 없을 때 서로 같은 베개 위에서라도 꼭 잠들자 하자고 약속했었던 똑같은 베개 베고서 잠이 들면 어디서는 함께 있는 거라던 꿈속에서도 헤어지지 말자던 그런 네가 너무 그리워 잠들 때까지 전화기를 붙잡고 사랑한다는 말 지겹게 나누고 두 베개가 하나 되는 그날을 그리며 행복했던 날 이제는 그 베개를 끌어안고서 눈물을 흘리고 후회를 흘리고 너에게 다 비춰주지 못했었던 나의 마음을 또 흘리지 똑같은 베개 베고서 잠이 들면 어디서든 함께 있는 거라던 꿈속에서도 헤어지지 말자던 그런 네가 너무 그리워 언젠가 잊혀질 날이 올 것 같아서 슬픔도 멈출 날 올 것 같아서 외려 두려워 시간이 내 맘까지 앗아갈까 아직도 너만 꿈꾸고 있는 바보 이런 나도 잠들 날이 올까봐 똑같은 베개 베고서 잠이
Your bridge to the world. befm 부산영어방송.
부산의 축제 어디까지 즐겨보셨나요? 과거와 현재, 미래가 공존하는 항구도시 부산. 이곳 부산은 계절을 물들이는 다양한 축제로 늘 풍성합니다. 봄의 시작을 알리는 봄꽃 축제부터 부산의 여름을 만끽하는 바다 축제, 전 세계 영화인들이 모이는 부산국제영화제와 새로운 시작의 해맞이 축제까지. 부산의 축제는 우리의 열정을 가득 담고 있습니다. 바쁜 일상은 잠시 뒤로하고 특별한 시간을 선물 받는 바로 이곳 부산에서 우리의 삶은 축제가 됩니다. 축제로 하나 되는 부산, 여러분은 어떤 축제를 기다리시나요? 이 캠페인은 대선공익재단과 bfm 부산영어방송이 함께합니다.
혹시 지금 운전 중이신가요? 어린이 교통사고 피해자 수는 지난 3년 평균 약 9만 명. 특히 어린이 보호구역 안전기준이 강화된 이후에도 어린이 보호구역 내 사고는 지속적으로 발생하고 있습니다. 스쿨존에서는 반드시 시속 30km 이하 서행, 스쿨존 내 불법 주정차 금지, 차량 출발 전 앞뒤 좌우 살피는 습관으로 어린이가 안전한 도시를 만듭니다. 참, 운전 중 휴대전화 사용은 모두에게 위험합니다. 우리 모두를 위한 교통안전, 나부터 실천하면 모두가 안전해집니다. 어린이가 안전하게 뛰어놀 수 있는 부산. 아이 키우기 좋은 도시는 우리 모두의 미래이자 희망입니다. 이 캠페인은 어린이가 안전한 부산을 만드는 은행, B&K 부산은행과 함께합니다.
부산 글로벌 도시재단 대표이사 전용호입니다. 부산은 대한민국의 굳건한 성장 동력으로서 물류, 금융, 영상, 관광, 문화, 디지털 첨단 산업의 중심지인 글로벌 허브 도시로 나아가고 있습니다. 이를 위해 부산 글로벌 도시재단은 부산을 대표하는 도시 외교의 플랫폼을 지향합니다. 세계 평화도시 부산의 브랜드를 강화하는 부산 UN 위크와 부산 글로벌 도시 포럼, 유라시아 도시 외교단, 개발협력 포럼, 그리고 세계 시민축제는 부산의 소프트 파워의 상징으로 자리매김하고 있습니다. 부산 영어방송도 시민과 함께 영어하기 편한 도시, 세계와 경쟁하며 더불어 살아가는 부산을 만들어가겠습니다. 시민이 행복한 글로벌 허브 도시 부산, 부산 글로벌 도시재단이 함께합니다.
지금 방송 광고라는 부메랑을 던져보세요. 소비자를 향해 정확히 날아가는 광고, 힘차게 돌아가는 경제, 부메랑처럼 다시 기업의 이익으로 되돌아오니까요. 방송 광고, 경제에 큰 힘이 됩니다. 부산 방송광고발전협의회.
The time is now 8 o'clock.
Good morning,
Dynamic Busan.
yeah, you're waking up. Time to shake it up. Tell the world good morning and find out what's going on.
Well, hi there, folks. There's everything from comedy to lively chat to music.
Broadcasting from a room about the size of your closet.
All calls are recorded. What show is this?
Live from Korea's dynamic city, this is Morning Wave in Busan. I'm sorry, who'd you say you were?
It is now 8 o'clock and this is news highlights. North Korea seems to be preparing to blast roads connected to South Korea. North Korea appears to be preparing to carry out explosions at roads connected to South Korea just days after a vow to cut off all inter-Korean roads and railways. The South Korean Joint Chiefs of Staff said that the North military has been carrying out activities assumed to be linked to explosions on the roads along the Gyeongui and Donghae lines. The Joint Chiefs of Staff for JCS said that it is closely monitoring such activities that are taking place north of the military demarcation line and seeking safety measures for troops and South Korean people. PPP leader urges presidential office reshuffle. The leader of the ruling People Power Party, or PPP, yesterday stepped up calls for a personnel overhaul of the presidential office to address controversies of influence peddling allegations involving the First Lady. PPP Chair Han Dong-hoon said that Kim does not hold any official position and such political connections should not exist. This has caused a rift within the party as lawmakers aligned with Han also escalated their calls for the presidential office to dismiss those close to the First Lady, while those aligned with President Yoon Suk-yeol criticizing this public discussion of the issue. Constitutional Court suspends quorum requirement and avoids shutdown. The Constitutional Court is expected to avoid a paralysis in its operations as it has temporarily suspended a clause that requires the attendance of at least 7 out of 9 justices to try a case yesterday. This follows an injunction request by Korea Communications Commission, or KCC chief Lee Jin-suk, who argued that it would be unfair to delay her impeachment trial due to a looming shortage in the court's quorum as 2 justices are set to retire on Thursday. The bench unanimously ruled in favor of the injunction, saying that Article 23, Paragraph 1 of the Constitutional Court Act, which would have suspended the court's powers, has the potential to be in violation of the Constitution. UN condemns casualties in Gaza as Israel expands attacks to northern Lebanon. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres condemns the large number of civilian casualties in northern Gaza as Israel's ground offensive intensifies. UN's Palestinian Refugee Agency said that 10 were killed and 40 injured after Israel attacked a food distribution center at a refugee camp. Israel also attacked a school and killed 22 people on Sunday local time, including 15 children. In the meantime, Israel has expanded its attacks to northern Lebanon, with 21 people killed in the Christian-majority northern region. Nobel Economics Prize goes to global inequality researchers. 3 U.S.-based researchers, Darren Acemoglu, Simon Johnson, and James A. Robinson, won the Nobel Prize in Economics for studies of how situations affect prosperity. The Nobel Committee of the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences said that societies with a poor rule of law and institutions that exploit the population do not generate growth or change for the better. The laureates' research helps us understand why. So the two worked on the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and Robinson conducted his research at the University of Chicago. And this was News Highlights. It's time for Issue Wagle. So here we are with Haley, and it is admission season, right, for university here in South Korea. And an issue has broken out of the essay exam at one of the top universities.
And this is such a contentious issue because number one, admissions is always a little sensitive.
Very.
And then at this school, so claims are coming out that some essay questions or the booklets at Yonsei University's early admissions were leaked about an hour before the exam began.
Whoa.
Right. And actually, statements are coming out. The essay test for early admissions, that was for natural sciences at Yonsei, it took place on Saturday at 2 p.m. But at one of the test sites, or at least at one of them, the test booklet went out at 12:55 p.m. So it's about an hour before the exam began. And it was retrieved about 15 minutes later at 1:10 p.m., which, by the way, 15 minutes, plenty to
at least look through the questions and, prepare.
Exactly. And then right before the exam began and how this kind of circulated and went viral, a post that came up on an online community which said, the proctor is gathering the booklets, but I can see the figure on question 1 and it looks like a vector question. So this seems to be a different site. So the proctor never handed them out, but they just didn't do a good enough job of, guarding them, or they opened it in a very open manner.
Yes.
By the way, that particular question 1 was 10 points. So kids who at least saw the diagram beforehand could have looked up the information or had time to think about it. And that does change things.
Of course.
And other students also claim that in some classes, the proctor didn't really control the usage of cell phones, and the test was even leaked online. In other cases, students argue that the tables or the desks were too close and they could see the other students' papers.
Multiple issues.
By the way, there was even a typo on the exam. With one variable that was supposed to be marked B, it was marked A.
Okay.
But then that really throws things into confusion.
Right.
So the school said, though, that they fixed the error 30 minutes before the exam was up, and they gave the students 20 extra minutes. So some students and parents are demanding a retake.
I saw photos of the parents lined up that were like dropping off their kids. It was all over social media.
Right.
And, the throngs of the parents just like waiting. And it's just a sensitive issue. Anything related with tests and admissions.
Absolutely.
So how did the school respond?
Well, the school said that they did not see any issues that would mar or damage the fairness of the exam. And the education ministry is of the position, on principle, they don't get involved in individual schools' admissions process, but they also said that they're looking into the situation. However, if any of the students or parents, they do decide to lodge lawsuits, including an injunction, then that could delay the entire admissions process for that school.
I see.
So, yeah.
So sensitive once again. I hope they work that out because we don't want any student to be,
disadvantaged because of that.
Terrible.
Right?
Yes, we want it to be a fair, level playing field. Next up, there have been several irregularities uncovered among employees at public institutions.
It's audit season, and that means, they get audited. And this is the time of year where we find out issues of, where is our taxpayer money getting spent on? So number one, bonuses.
Okay.
So these public institutions, they're supposed to have a rigid evaluation tier based on which they give bonuses, top to bottom. And employees in the lowest tier, based on their performance and assessment, receive, or they're supposed to receive, no bonuses. However, over 100 public institutions didn't put any of their employees in the lowest tier. So everybody got bonuses.
Everybody?
Everybody. So for example, let's look at the Housing Urban Guarantee Corporation, which has received a business assessment as an institution of level D. That's this year.
Yes.
But it gave a total of 16.3 billion won in bonuses to over 1,000 employees.
So how would we even say that in Korean, like bonuses?
성과금 or bonus 성과금.
Yes.
And SR, which operates a train SRT,
yes,
gave bonuses to employees who were disciplined for drunk driving.
Okay,
and
here's the big sigh.
Yeah, and you might be saying, Haley, maybe that's different from their work performance.
Yes.
Well, the company has policy that says employees who receive disciplinary action for grave irregularities, drunk driving would be one, are exempt from bonuses. So they're not supposed to get them. They got them anyway.
If it's in the rule book, then there's a problem, right?
Yeah, that's a problem.
And then there were cases where employees at a public institution seemingly went on a shopping spree, oh my goodness, with the company's funds.
This is the Korea Hydro and Nuclear Power 한국수력원자력. Their internal audit showed that over the course of 20 months, its employees spent nearly 3 billion won collectively on things that seemingly have nothing to do with work. And that was spent out of their operational budget. So what would that entail? 200 massagers, like massage guns and, massagers, smartwatches, and wireless headphones, and clothing. Can I buy clothes off the BFM budget? Can I write it off as an expense because we're on YouTube?
저 마사지 의자 필요해요. 허리 아파요. 2시간 동안 우리.
Yeah, Andrew had a back thing.
issue.
Although he and I agreed that it's because he's getting old.
And we need clothes to look nice on camera. So, don't they have to fill out finance reports that say where they're using the money, where the money's going to?
By the way, just anecdotally,
yes.
Public institutions, of which we are one, we're very, very strict about how the corporate credit card gets used. So, for example, I have been in a meeting where you can get coffee on a corporate credit card because it's for a meeting, but you can't get the frequencies or the stamp because that's not for the company, that's for the individual, and that would be an individual benefiting off of the corporate credit card.
Ooh.
So that's how strict things are supposed to be. Well, the massage gun, and people did fill out spending reports and they wrote reasons. The massage gun was for prevention of skeletal or bone illness. I don't know what that has to do with their work. Also, the smartwatch was equipment for their maintenance work. And then the wireless headphones were for taking e-learning classes for their work. Yeah. So others bought hiking gear with research funding. Maybe it's because they had to hike. I don't know. On top of that, some people sold these items on secondhand markets and profited off of it. And that's called embezzlement.
That is illegal.
That is embezzlement.
Yes.
So People Power Party lawmaker Park Sang-hoon, who released a figure, said that this is actually akin to a criminal act where public employees spent taxpayer money as their own. By the way, the problem, this particular public corporation's budget spending guidelines are so lax, there's actually no clause to discipline them. Or retrieve the money. So they've only been able to retrieve 180 million won worth of items from, 3 billion won.
Wow, and William has a question saying, Haley, hey, can you and Kat deduct your work clothes budget from your taxes? Can we? Do we have any tax experts?
I did get my booster on the company credit card, though.
The booster, though, is...
It is. I don't take it, guys. I don't take it home. I am the only person who uses it, but I also don't take it home.
Yes, and we have sometimes other vertically challenged guests. Sometimes that use it.
Do we?
Once in a while, they've used it a couple times.
Yeah, call me.
Okay, so we're gonna end it on a positive note.
Yeah,
because we need one. I mean, that's our tax money.
That's my taxes.
Okay, so we may finally be seeing a change in the perception among young people about marriage and family planning.
We are. So Gen Zs and maybe younger millennials see family planning in a much more positive light.
Right.
So this is a survey by the Presidential Commission on Marriage and Childbirth and Child Rearing over 2,500 citizens between the ages of 25 and 49.
Okay.
There was a small 0.6% increase on positive perceptions of marriage. However, if we are looking at the 25 to 29 age group who are likely to get married or in the future or now, 7-point jump.
Oh, that's a big jump.
Huge.
Yes.
Also for those in kind of conventional marriage age, 30 to 39 age group, especially for women, there was an 11% increase in their willingness to get married. That's
but
the
I love
biggest
the
change.
phrase.
The willingness. I'm willing to get married. Yes. You may approach now.
Yeah, if you twist my arm, I might get married.
Exactly.
Yes.
I mean, and in this economy, they might have to. Also for childbirth, there was an overall 7% increase in the number of people who said one should have children. 13% for women in their 25 to 29 age group.
Yes.
However, those with negative perceptions about marriage or undecided when it comes to having children, their biggest reason was money, the cost of raising a child, and also difficulties in child rearing. So this points to the need for support in this field in particular.
And we need it stat. We need some policies and
needed it
support.
yesterday.
All right, well, we're going to call it a wrap for all the issues. Wa글와글. We'll check in with you tomorrow.
Have a great day.
Everybody, this was Haley. Back to you, the waivers for our traffic and weather update. Here is an update on the traffic situation on this very wet Tuesday. It's looking slow on 중앙대로 from 소정천 intersection to 부곡 intersection. It's backed up on 번영로 from the Suyeong overpass to Suyeong tunnel as well. And there's congestion on 가야대로 from 동의대 어귀 intersection to 주례 intersection. Currently, it is 21 degrees Celsius. It's raining. It's expected to come down until the afternoon, at least on and off, with a daytime high expected of 26. Rain is forecast nationwide, so don't forget to grab an umbrella. If you haven't done so already, you're going to need it today. This was your traffic and weather. And because there's so much congestion, maybe we can dance in our cars. Shut up and dance. And this is by Walk the Moon.
This woman is my destiny. She said, ooh, shut up and dance with me. We were victims of the night, the chemical, physical kryptonite. Help us to the base and the fading light. Oh, we were bound to get together, bound to get together. She took my arm, I don't know how it happened. I realize this is my last chance. She took my arm. I don't know how it happened. We took the floor and she said, oh, don't you dare look back. Just keep your eyes on me. I said, you're holding back. She said, shut up and dance with me. This woman is my destiny. She said, ooh, ooh, shut up and dance. Don't you dare look back. Just keep your eyes on me. I said, you're holding back. She said, shut up and dance with me. This woman is my destiny. She said, ooh, ooh, shut up and dance with me.
Who was dancing along? I know you guys were all dancing along to that song, right? Welcome back, everybody. Before we get into our special interview today, we're talking about our text topic one last time. Do you tend to throw things away or do you hold on to them? And what kind of things do you hold on to? That was the question posed. And so it seems that many of you are kind of keen on keeping things that are of sentimental value to you. However, some people say that they kind of tend to hoard, like they hold on to some of their stuff. Umberto says, I used to tell myself that I would be donating or selling old things or things that I was no longer using. And then he says, lies in capital letters with an exclamation point. After weeks or months in the garage, they would go in the trash. Ooh, okay. So, another common thread that I'm seeing is books. A lot of listeners seem to think that it's really difficult to throw out books. I agree. Some books I have are from elementary school. I can't get myself to throw away books. And so, yes, some of them are yellowing with age. 네, 중학교 때 진짜 소설책까지 다 가지고 있어요. 근데 페이지가 조금 노래요. But still, I have them. It's just like, I don't know, I like looking at them. The collection of books I have in our bookcases at home, it just kind of gives me a very kind of, what do they say in Korean? 뭐 밥 안 먹어도 배부르다, that kind of feeling. I like that feeling, having like all the books, all of my textbooks from from college and like everything. They're all there, all my books. So I like looking at them. And every Sunday, my job is to dust the bookshelves and cases. So I do that with a very nice feathery duster, and I dust off all the books and yeah. It's a thing. Anyhow, we're going to get to our special interview. I'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back, everybody. It's time for a special interview. Let me ask you this, waivers. Have you ever thought about what happens to maybe that real trendy but kind of cheap shirt you wore and kind of threw out once? That trend passed. It was no longer in fashion. Well, fast fashion or even pop-up stores may be fun to shop at, but they are creating a major problem for the environment. Piles of clothes and waste from temporary stores are filling up landfills, with many items thrown out before the tags are even taken off. So, with new laws like California's Responsible Textile Recovery Act, we need to think more carefully about how we shop and what happens to the clothes that we no longer wear or use. So we have invited Luyi Gui, Associate Professor in Operations and Decision Technologies in the Paul Marat School of Business at UC Irvine. So let's see what she has to say. Hi, thanks for joining us.
Hello, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. The pleasure is all ours, Professor. Just a couple years ago in 2022, I hear that it was reported that 68% of discarded clothing was incinerated, meaning it was burned, while only 13% was actually recycled. So can you expand on this and tell us a little bit more?
Sure, of course. Actually, the figure is about right. So the recycling rate of textile is about 10 to 15% around the world, depending on the location. But one thing that I really want to emphasize here is that out of everything that's being recycled, only about less than 1% is used for making new clothes. And the rest is all going to go for lower quality materials, such as, for example, they're going to be made into mops and towels and insulation materials and etc. This is because our current textile recycling technology is just not there to, process these cotton fabric from our clothes in a way that can retain their softness and the quality so that it can be reused to produce clothing.
I see, Professor. So along that vein, then, what happens to all of those discarded clothing? Do they technically, when we say 68% of the discarded clothing incinerated, are we talking about them like going to landfills? Is that what happens when we discard of them?
Yeah, so some of them go to landfill, some of them are burned, as you said, so they are incinerated.
Ah, I see. So I would imagine that, in a day and age that we live in right now, Professor, where we talk about being, environmentally friendly, and we talk about, we need to reduce the CO2 that we're emitting, and et cetera, and even like the idea of recycling, why is this? I mean, we've seen this sharp increase in cheap, kind of low quality clothing, especially from online shopping. Are we just not being environmentally conscious at all? What's going on here?
Yeah, I think there are many factors kind of going into this, right? It's people's pursuit of fashion. We all love fashion. We like to wear different outfits every day. I think it's very, very natural. But at the same time, it's kind of driven by profit, right? So if a clothes will be only worn for a few times, then there is no need for high quality materials. So then the manufacturer will have an incentive to cut cost and build these low quality materials, which kind of worsen the situation, right? You can only wear it for a few times, and then because of the low quality, you really cannot reuse it much, right? So it kind of ends up in landfills. Yeah, and totally.
Yes, I see your insight. Thanks for explaining that process to our listeners. And so in terms of consumers, like our listeners who are listening right now, many consumers believe that, maybe me buying this cheap, or inexpensive item online, or a couple of them because they're so cheap, I might get 3, and then I get them to my doorstep, try them on, and then maybe wear them a few times and then maybe discard them. And you might feel good because you're putting it away in the recycle bin. But maybe you can also tell us about how this kind of contributes to the larger problem of our kind of throwaway culture.
Totally. It's a great question because I mean I am a consumer myself, so I totally understand the mindset because I believe there are a few assumptions kind of goes into this kind of understanding that it doesn't really matter much. One is we tend to think that clothing is not toxic, right? It's made, for example, especially clothing made with natural fabric like cotton or wool. Like if you put it in a landfill, it's not toxic. It's not like a computer that has a lot of, these chemical materials, right? So you might not feel like it creates a big problem. But the actual reality is, if you think about fashion, the majority of the environmental impact actually comes from the production process, not necessarily after it's being thrown away. Because producing clothing can be very resource intensive. So actually, I have some numbers here to share with you guys. For example, For example, the amount of water needed to produce a cotton t-shirt, just a regular cotton t-shirt, can satisfy one person's drinking needs for 2.5 years. So think about these countries where people don't have enough drinking water. So think about the impact there. And also textile production accounts for about 20% of water pollution worldwide, and also 10% of carbon emission around the world. So actually fashion industry is considered the second most carbon intensive industry globally. So producing these clothing actually takes up a lot of our precious natural resources and leads to pollution. So that's a huge environmental impact there. In fact, it was estimated that because our thrown away mindset, and because consumers wants to switch from one design to another, and manufacturers end up with a lot of unsold clothing, as you mentioned in the beginning. A lot of clothes were even thrown away with tags on. About 20% of newly made apparel items were actually never sold. So think about like all the resources that go into making all these products, right? And they never get used. And because they are low quality, they probably won't get reused, even if you donate them, right? Even if you put it in a recycling bin, once they got recycled, they're probably gonna be a low quality item, low quality material that won't be used for making other clothes. So the impact is actually pretty bad here.
Yes, and Professor, not to interrupt, but I'm still stuck on the cotton T-shirt, that example that you gave us, that the fact that, the water used to make one cotton T-shirt, and I'm wearing, a cotton blouse, but a T-shirt, 2.5 years of drinkable water for a person. I mean, exactly. I've never heard of that, but that's pretty insane to think about, to wrap our minds around that kind of number. And the fact that... Yes, please go on.
Yeah, so I just want to give a bit more details, because it kind of accounts for what we call the life cycle, right? You start with the planting of the cotton plant, right? Cotton is actually a very thirsty plant. It requires a lot of water. And then you need to go into all these washing, the textile manufacturing process. It takes a lot of water for washing and etc. Our jeans actually is even takes up more water in manufacturing, because you need to wash it multiple times. So it can be really resource intensive.
Oh, I'm just like shocked. I'm wearing jeans right now underneath a table, and I'm feeling awfully guilty, but I'll hold on to them for a long time now that I know. And moving on, though, Professor, looking at the facts and the numbers that you've given us, California has this Responsible Textile Recovery Act. And from what I understand, it aims to address the waste produced, what you just told us about, by the fashion industry. So can you give us an overview of this act and how it could really maybe help to reduce the environmental impact of fast fashion?
Yeah, sure, of course. So California, as you mentioned, has passed this regulation. So this is a type of what we call the extended producer responsibility regulation. This type of regulation has been around for many years for like electronics, carpet, paint, pharmaceuticals, and etc. And fashion is the newest product type that the policymakers are trying to regulate with this policy tool. So the idea is that the producers or the manufacturers or the brands needs to take responsibility of the product, not just for the production phase or even the consumption phase, but it even goes beyond the consumption phase. So the law requires that these manufacturers or brands to participate in what's called the producer responsibility organizations to develop a statewide program to collect, transport, repair, sort, and recycle post-consumption apparel and textile products. So basically, the brands need to go out and establish a collection network, right, for consumers to drop off their products, drop off their used clothing. And they also need to reach out, for example, establishing education programs at the retailers to educate consumers about the availability of this program and and encourage them to return their products, right?
Yes.
And also to set up things like performance standards, such as, this is the recovery rate that I'm aiming for my brand, and also to make sure that the recycling process is safe and not toxic, is not polluting the environment. So there are many things that the manufacturers need to be mindful about.
So is this, in your opinion, Professor, what you just described, the process, this act, is it really helping, do you think? And are there other states or countries that do something similar to this?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. So California, to the best of my knowledge, is the first state in the U.S. that's passed this regulation.
Yes.
Similar regulation can be found like in Europe. So Europe has a pan-European directive on banning, just throwing away things like throwing away clothing or incineration.
Sure.
You have to dispose these products in an environmentally friendly way, then you need to take responsibility of those products. But EPR, the Extended Producer Responsibility legislation, as I mentioned, has been applied to many other products before, and we have seen promising results. So I think this is definitely a big step for curbing the environmental impact of fashion waste, overproduction, overconsumption, and etc. Basically, it can definitely improve recycling rate, right? With the establishment of statewide collection, and you educate consumers about how to return the product, it can definitely improve our recycling rate. So next time maybe I'll be talking to you, it's not going to be 15% anymore. It's going to probably be much higher than that. So that's a good sign.
Yes.
And second, I think it's probably more important is that when manufacturer needs to bear this cost, right? They have to be financially responsible for this.
Right.
It kind of incentivize them to think more carefully about the environmental impact of their production processes, right? To think more carefully about their production planning, right? What kind of product design do I want to do? Do I still want to do low quality? Because then I really need to collect a lot of those products because it's all my responsibility, right? So they kind of incentivize manufacturers to think along those lines.
Right. So speaking of those manufacturers that you just spoke about, Professor, I also want to kind of turn our attention to manufacturers and pop-up stores. Recently I've seen pop-up stores where, some of them, not all, but some of them, they seem to be wanting to use more recycled, materials and try to minimize waste. That's the message that they are sending to the consumers. And so we think like, we feel a little less guilty, like, maybe if I buy this product from this store, I'm actually maybe being a little less guilty of contributing to all of this. But obviously that doesn't solve the entire issue or problem. So what can these businesses, including pop-up stores, do more to ensure that fashion can be sustainable, that it doesn't have to go to that far in terms of, just churning out like mounds and, massive amounts of clothing?
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. But I'm very glad to see that the brands and manufacturers or the store operators are already thinking about using recycled materials and trying to make the operation more environmentally friendly. So I think that's definitely a great direction. That things are going in the right direction. So I kind of want to mention this interesting design concept from operations. That's kind of where I work, where I research, the domain that I research. So that's called standardization. The idea is that we can have the standardized components and then we create varieties through these components. So I guess for pop-up stores, one immediate thing that they can do is to, for example, try store decorations that can be taken apart and you can reuse those little components later, and by mix and match, you can create new styles, right? New decorations, right? For example, for banners, you don't just, put up a banner and write words on it, because then you cannot reuse them, but instead use those single letters, right? Those single words, right?
Yes.
Put them together, right? You can take them apart, and then by mix and matching different orders, you can create a different banner, right?
Sure.
So that's a way for you to recycle. Just try those things that can be taken apart and can be disassembled, right?
That's a great example, yes.
Yeah, and also like try to use more natural fabric, because natural fabric tend to have tend to be more versatile in general, and can be repurposed in different ways. So that's another immediate thing that the stores can do. But I mean, in the long run, definitely brands or stores need to really think about their profitability model. You know, does it still make sense to focus on short-term profit and really go after, you know, these low quality and fast fashion? Is it going to be more beneficial, not just for the environment, but also for their brand image, to kind of focus more on quality, durability, or like classic pieces that people cherish, like they really cherish the pieces that they wear, right? Like the books you mentioned before, right? You look at the books from your second grade and you're like, that's part of my life, right?
Yes,
you want to, for brands, maybe it makes more sense for them to create a piece that consumers really value, right? As part of their personality, rather than just, you know, having a few wears and then throw it away.
Well, Professor, as we wrap up our discussion with you, and we're getting so many messages saying how it's really eye-opening as to like the statistics and the numbers, because I think maybe people just weren't thinking too deeply about it. So as we wrap up today, any other things that you want to say to relate to the listeners out there? What can we do to be more conscious about our choices?
Oh yeah, totally. I think consumers play a really, really important role in all of these. So I guess few tips. Get a few more wears of what you already have, you know, in a wardrobe, because, you know, even you get one more wear of your existing clothes, you can actually collectively, we can make a big difference of, you know, in terms of the environmental or social impact of fashion.
Yes.
And also, you know, think twice before we buy. Think about what we have and think about, you know, on what occasion can the new clothes kind of fit into my existing collection, right? And try to mix and match idea that I mentioned, right? Having classic pieces that are versatile, and if you want a new outfit, you can mix and match, right? Combining existing pieces rather than go and shop for an entirely different an outfit. And even by doing that, it kind of creates a more consistent way for you to show your fashion taste and personality. Yeah, so I guess, and also I really would like to encourage our listeners to go and find out more about the environmental impact of fashion, because everything I shared here is just the tip of the iceberg, and there are a lot of information online about you know, the hidden secrets of everything, you know, those fashion pieces that we bought. So yeah, go and find out more.
Thank you so much for opening our eyes, and I'm certain our listeners will find out more. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you so much for having me.
And this was our special interview. Lots of food for thought regarding fast fashion today and those pop-up stores and all that waste that we are creating. I'll be back in a moment.
Get your local up-to-date news from Korea and abroad right here on Morning Wave in Busan with Catherine. Stay tuned.
It is now time for Bonnie and the Hell.
Good morning.
How did you like our special interview?
Oh, I love that
I knew you would. I knew you would enjoy it.
I actually heard it first in the car. I was like, yes, they have this on. That's actually a huge reason why. I don't know if you're going to ask me, but I'm going to answer the text topic.
Okay, yeah, of course. You're doing it all.
That's actually a reason why I have such a hard time getting rid of my clothes. It's like the one thing I do hoard is probably clothes because I can't figure out a good way to get rid of them because I don't want to just throw them in the bins because I know that most of them won't get to a good place. And then there was a company that I heard that was recycling old fabrics, but then news came out that they weren't really recycling all of them. So I'm always in a jam of what to do. So I want to sell them or at least give them to somebody that can give them new life. You know
what a great way is? A few years back, somebody from the station organized kind of a run where they collected everything and we all donated collectively to a women's shelter. So for women who might need a fresh start, and the message was this: gently, really nicely used stuff, not like stuff that you really literally want to throw away. Right.
Yeah,
and so
I think that's a great option.
And that was, I thought, was such a good option.
Yes.
Right, because it's going to go to someone who might really need it.
Yeah, and there's so many people out there who need those clothes, so I want to make sure it gets there. So that's why I have a hard time holding on to so many things. But
what's our topic for today?
Yeah, but everybody out there. So today, actually, for the health, I'm going to be talking about something, and we're going to practice this, actually. We're going to flip the negative. And what this means is, I know there's a lot of talk out there about positive thinking, the power of positivity.
Yes.
There's been many books and studies on this, and it's really true because, life has its ups and downs. There's always going to be some sort of tough thing that you are going through.
Yes.
Life isn't easy, but the way that we deal with them makes such a big difference on how those things affect us.
Okay.
So how we can flip things from being negative to the positive. This is partly positive thinking, but this also has to do with the language that we use in our head and out loud as well. So instead
Wait, slow down. Because you said the language we use not just out loud, but in our head.
Yes,
I think that's
so
important.
much of the language that we say out loud actually starts in our head.
It's all connected, is it not? I hope so.
Yes, and a lot of it might not actually come out, but sometimes the negative thinking goes around in our head and maybe it never comes out to fruition. But I'm talking about trying to flip that language.
Sure.
So instead of using negative language with ourselves and with others, to try and make it positive. Because this also, you might think, this is just a mental health topic, but also it affects us physically as well. Many studies out there say that positive thinking can actually lead to a longer life, less stress, less chronic disease even. Verywell.com states all of these different health benefits physically to positive thinking as well.
And Dana M. saying, OMG, this is the exact topic I needed.
Oh, good.
So she's like, I need it. Oh, Drift Monkey saying, me too.
Oh, okay,
so
guys,
people are
let's
really
get into it.
Listening, perking up their ears. Here we go.
Well, have you ever gotten a new haircut or you're wearing an outfit and everybody compliments you, but then you hear one negative comment?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe mom, usually. Mom out there, if you're listening, they're like, oh, I liked your hair better the other way or something.
Negative Nancy's?
Yes, exactly. You tend to focus on that one negative comment.
Even though you got like 10 other compliments.
Yeah. Right? It all kind of goes away and you focus on that one. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have worn this or maybe I shouldn't have gotten that because of that one negative comment.
I cut my hair like 3 months back and most of the comments, everybody was really, really nice. I don't know what they were really thinking. They were really, really nice except for, I forgot who it was. I won't call you out because I don't remember. Someone was like, oh, you look like Matilda from The Professional. And I was like, is that a compliment or is it not? But I was just like...
Yeah, and then you're thinking about it,
I'm thinking about it. I'm like... So the next day, I styled it differently, so it looked less Matilda-ish.
Yeah. So our brains actually tend to focus on the negative way more than the positive.
So it's true.
It's not really your fault. Our brains just do this.
Yes.
But let me focus. I'm going to tell you guys all these studies that tell us how we can change this. So the University of Ohio published this research that showed that dwelling on a negative event can actually have physical impact on your body and increase the inflammation in your body physically.
Really?
So this can lead to depression, other chronic diseases. And so what they did is they took a group of students and they put them through a really stressful situation.
Okay.
And then afterwards they split up the group. Group 1, they told to ruminate on the situation, to think about it.
Okay.
Sit there, think about that situation, what just happened. Their physiology, the inflammation went up, cortisol, adrenaline increased, and this lasted for hours and hours. Group 2, they put in a room and they told, don't think about that. And they actually told them to think about really just mundane things like walking through an aisle at a grocery store. Think about yourself just walking through a park. What are you seeing? So whatever they were thinking about was not the stressful situation they just went through.
Okay.
That group 2 had no physiological changes whatsoever. They actually were in a calm state.
Because they weren't thinking about...
They weren't thinking about what they just went through. Now, weeks later, the same groups were told to recall the same stressful event. Now, group 1 had the same reaction. All of the body actually had higher inflammation. This lasted for a long time. But group 2, even though they thought about that same stressful situation and they could remember it perfectly, had none of those changes.
They were okay.
Yeah. So it shows you the way that you deal with the situation from the very beginning will affect you thereon after as well. So if you go through something stressful, then you try and not focus on it, try to change it into a positive thing, or just take your mind off it completely.
Yes.
And this will help you later on if you have to think back on that situation again.
Interesting. Okay, I love this.
Yeah.
Okay.
The second study actually... This is so funny, but have you heard when you speak nicely to plants, it actually helps them grow?
Yes. Like supposedly,
yes. So
it has an
positive
impact.
Speaking. So I had a friend that just did this with her kids. The 2 plants, the one plant, the students spoke nice words and said, like, I love you, you're amazing, I hope you grow well.
Aww.
The second plant, they were like, I hate you, you're ugly, you're awful, you're horrible. The actual second plant died, and the first one actually grew to be okay. Now, there are some people out there that say it's actually the level of your voice. So plants, it's a frequency. They don't like the high tone and the frequency. They can't tell a difference of words. But still, if you want to think about the way that we speak to people in a negative, or yourself in a negative way, or a positive way, it still has that same impact. Growth or death. Or not growth.
No, we don't. No, not death.
Okay, I'm going to go through one more study. So National Geographic did this experiment where they had people shooting basketballs.
Okay.
Right, and one of them, the first guy, he made 9 out of 10 baskets. So he's a really great basketball player. Second person, not a lot of experience, missed all 10 shots. Okay. Now they put on blindfolds and they have an audience. And the first person that shot a lot of baskets, they're like, boo, you're not going to do it. Oh my gosh. So even if he made the shot, they made him think that he missed it. And they were like, oh, you suck. Like they're just kind of saying negative things to
bad-mouthing him. Okay.
Yeah. So actually, after that, he shot the baskets again. This time he only made 2. So this is someone who made 9 to begin with. And then after he got all those negative comments, he only made 2. Now the girl who missed all 10, when she was blindfolded, they said things of encouragement. Like, you're doing so well. Oh my gosh, that was great. Oh yeah, you got this. And then after she took the blindfold off, she made 4 baskets.
Ooh, this gave me chills.
So just the power of positivity around you, the mental stress that you might take on when people are saying negative things to you can actually affect your performance. So this is
true.
Something you might think about if you're a boss in a workplace or a teacher, per se, then the amount of words that you say to your clients or your employees or your students, what percentage is positive versus negative, and what kind of impact that might have on their success rate. Okay, so we're going to actually practice this. Did you know that kids, when they're young, they hear an average of the word no 400 times a day?
400 times a day?
Yes.
Are you serious?
Yes, because usually we're focusing on don't do that. No, don't do this. Don't do that. Don't put that in your mouth.
Oh, right.
Don't do this.
Get out.
I want to think about how can we flip that no into a yes. So
how can we?
This is training our brains, right?
Okay.
From the very basic things. So, for example, if you're telling people, no, don't run. How can you frame this in a positive without saying the no?
Without saying no, don't run. How about we walk?
Yes, exactly.
Or I don't know.
No, yeah. So we're taking the negative out of the sentence, right? We're putting a positive frame. Instead of no running, you're saying walk slowly, walk, or just walk. Yeah. Okay, next, how about no hitting? How can you say this?
Let's keep our hands to ourselves because you might injure somebody.
Yes. Yeah. Let's move our bodies safely.
Yes.
Let's be gentle with each other. Don't be rude. Don't be mean.
Oh,
how can you
easy.
Say this?
The golden rule. Be nice.
Oh, yes.
Can't say anything nice.
Yes.
No, we used to hear that a lot, but let's be gentle with our comments. Yes.
So this is very basic stuff, but it starts with this kind of thing. So in your head and with children, when you're saying, no, don't do this, try to frame, how can I change this into a positive? Instead of, don't put that in your mouth. No, don't do that. I know that's a first reaction.
Right.
But it's like, oh, wait, stop. Think about it. Is that food? Or, how can you train your kids differently? So this trickles up into the adult mindset now that when we're adults, we've heard no so much when we're kids.
Yes.
That's automatically where our brain goes.
Aww.
So is there something that maybe you tell your kids a lot or something that you might think in the negative a lot that we can change?
I have learned through my many years of just trial and error. First of all, I bite my tongue and I think again. The reason why is because a few years back, my kiddies told me Mom, it kind of hurts when you say things this way. And I didn't realize I was saying it that way. I thought it was constructive criticism, but they took it much more harshly than what I intended. And it was kind of eye-opening. And I was just I didn't realize that. So it was several years back. And then after that, sometimes I literally bleed because I'm biting my tongue. Literally.
Yeah.
But just take a few seconds and I try to rephrase things. I really do. I try
this actually takes time,
Yes.
This is actually retraining your brain.
It's so hard sometimes.
We've heard no so much since a young age that we really need to retrain the brain into thinking a different way. So that's why I'm going over these very basic things when you're telling, don't whine, don't complain.
Yes.
What's something positive that we can say about this? But as adults, this is also a different mind frame,
I
mindset.
wish we had 30 more minutes, but we're out of time.
Great practice, though.
Yes. No, let's absolutely take a page out of Bonnie's book today and how to flip the negative. Let's try it today, even just for one day. And let's get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
Okay?
Good luck.
Well, thank you. We'll check in with you next week. Thank you, Bonnie.
Yeah. Have a good day.
Yeah, everybody. This was Bonnie. It's time to wrap up for today. And how about this song to take us out, though? Because I wish you a lovely day. I know it's wet outside. Please be careful. Flower by Johnny Stimson. Have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye.
What's inside? Mother Nature made us to intertwine. Lavender elixir so full of pheromones. Give me one taste and you're gone. What if I can't get you out of my thoughts? What if my seasons don't change? What if you forget to forget me not and we fade away? You're my little flower, blooming in the night, only for an hour. The northern lights, my Casablanca sweetheart, nectar so divine. Baby, you're the best part of my life. What can I do? What can I say to convince you to stay? All I see are tulips and I'm a hummingbird. Heavenly ambrosia in every curve. Honey dripping over my imagination. The fragrance keeps flowing straight down to my soul.